Hey guys, tonight we meet someone who sees in a way most of us have forgotten. Not with eyes, not with names, but with something older than thought. The stars are out, but he doesn't look up. He doesn't have to. He sees the sky from within. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're tuning in from somewhere far or somewhere quiet, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'd love to know who's sharing this moment. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find him sitting on a stone ledge beneath a tree, so still it feels like it's listening. A blind man, draped in white linen, toes in the dust, hands resting on his knees like they've been there for a century. He doesn't flinch when you approach. Instead, he tilts his head slightly, like he's already been expecting you, which would be weird, except that everything about him feels like it's always been here. Even the silence wraps around him like a second robe. "Ah," he says, without opening his eyes. "You've been looking for something, and now you're tired of looking." You freeze. You hadn't said a word. But it's true. You didn't come here for answers. Not really. You came because everything else was loud, empty. Even the things you used to believe in had started to rattle when you touched them. And now you're standing in front of this man who can't see, but somehow sees all of that. His name? He doesn't give it. He just chuckles. "Names are useful for sorting laundry," he says, "not so much for seeing the truth." A soft breeze moves through the leaves above. Somewhere far off, a bell rings once, like a sigh in metal. You don't ask questions. Something tells you they'd only get in the way. Instead, you sit, just across from him, feet folded under, like you're a student in some kind of invisible school. The sage, or whatever he is, begins to hum. Not a tune, just a note that drifts between worlds. And while he hums, you notice. He's not watching you, but you feel watched, not judged, just seen. You think sight lives in your eyes, he finally says. That's adorable. You open your mouth to protest, but nothing comes out. It lives here. He taps his own chest. Behind the noise, behind the hunger for answers, behind even the hunger to be loved. You frown. That last part lands like a stone in your stomach. He nods, like he felt it. "In the beginning," he continues, "when I first lost my sight, I was afraid. I thought the world had gone dark, but the world hadn't changed. I had just stopped distracting myself with how things looked. That was when the real seeing began." He leans back against the tree. "You want to know something fun?" he says, voice almost playful. Historians still argue whether ancient seers like us were blind by fate or by choice. Some say the truly awakened always chose blindness. Others say the light came only after the world vanished. You imagine that. A council of sages tossing away their sight like old shoes, trading faces and colors for something deeper. "What did you choose?" you ask. "I didn't." He smiles. "But maybe I stopped needing to." You hear a soft rustle of wings. A single white feather drops beside you, maybe from a dove, or not. The blind man doesn't react. Maybe he knew it would fall. "There's something beneath your eyes," he murmurs. "A stillness, a seeing that doesn't blink." And then he's quiet again. Not out of politeness, but like the words ran out, or maybe weren't even his to begin with. You sit for what could be minutes or 100 years, and in that time, you feel it, a presence not just in him, but in the air itself, a kind of listening, not with ears, but with being. The moment stretches out like a thread in the wind. No tension, just a subtle hum of something that can't be named. And in that stillness, you realize you're not just listening to him. You're listening to the space between thoughts, the silence that doesn't need filling. And for a moment, just one, you wonder if you've seen your own mind for the first time. Then softly, like a whisper from inside a dream, the man says, "You're not lost. You're just looking from the outside." And just like that, your breath catches in a way it hasn't in years. Not because you're afraid, but because something true just landed in the center of your chest. The blind sage nods once. Tomorrow, we walk. You don't ask where. Somehow, you already know it won't be a place you'll find on any map. The sky above glows a little brighter, like the stars are leaning in to listen. And beside you, in the dust, the white feather begins to dissolve into the earth. You awaken gently as the first light filters through the curtains. A soft glow that doesn't just touch your skin, but seems to whisper into the spaces between your thoughts. The blind sage's words echo quietly inside you. Tomorrow, you walk. Now, your feet meet the earth, stepping onto a path that feels less like a trail and more like a conversation between your soul and the world. The air is cool, filled with scents you don't name but somehow recognize, a mix of wild herbs and distant rain. You notice the leaves overhead, flickering with sunlight and shadow, and suddenly it hits you. Sight lives everywhere, not only in eyes, but in the way light dances on the bark, in the breeze that carries stories from one tree to another, in the quiet pulse beneath your feet. The world isn't just seen, it is seeing, in countless forms you never knew to notice. The sage walks beside you, his footsteps calm and sure. Without sight, he moves like he's part of the earth's own rhythm. You realize that true seeing isn't about focusing on objects, but about opening to the presence that flows through all things. As you walk, he shares soft stories, parables meant not to teach, but to invite. There's one about a desert flower that blooms only when the moon smiles, and another about a river that sings to the stones beneath it. These tales aren't just words, but gentle windows, guiding you to feel how sight and knowing live in the unfolding moment, not just in the mind's eye. You stumble slightly on a hidden root, and the sage laughs, a light teasing sound. Even in awakening, you stumble. Seeing is not perfection, it's presence, he says. Sight lives everywhere, even in the moments you miss a step. He tells you about a mystic from a faraway mountain who spoke only through humming, each note a kind of seeing without words. Settling under a wide fig tree, you close your eyes, breathing deeply. In this stillness, the world feels alive with quiet seeing. The rustling leaves, the soft hum of distant insects, the steady beat of your own heart. Sight lives not just in the eyes, but in this vast field of awareness, where all things shimmer together. As the day softens toward afternoon, the sky above seems less a backdrop and more a living mirror, reflecting the openness inside you. Awakening isn't a place to arrive at. you sense. It's the gentle unfolding of seeing that flows through everything, everywhere. You pause beside the sage, who tilts his head thoughtfully. There are many ways to understand awakening, he says quietly. Some say it happens like lightning, a sudden, brilliant flash that changes everything in an instant. Others see it as a slow flower, unfolding petal by petal over time. You remember reading about this debate once, from voices across centuries and cultures. Scholars, mystics, and seekers have argued endlessly whether true enlightenment is an instantaneous shattering of illusion or a patient blossoming, a gradual dawn. One wise teacher called it the thunderclap and the whisper. The thunderclap being that sudden piercing insight, and the whisper the slow, ongoing process of integration. Another spoke of awakening as both a seed and the sun, at once potential and illumination, unfolding and flash. The sage's smile is soft. Historians and seekers alike still argue this, he says. But maybe the truth is not one or the other. Perhaps awakening is both sudden and slow. A lightning strike that opens the sky and the quiet rain that follows, nourishing the earth. You sit beneath the spreading fig tree once more, feeling the weight of these perspectives settle like soft leaves around you. It seems the question itself is part of the unfolding, an invitation to rest in mystery rather than rush for answers. You realize that this journey is not about reaching a distant summit, but about learning to walk gently on the way itself, where every step holds the possibility of both thunder and silence. And so you walk, step by step, into the ever-widening sky that waits inside. You walk on, feeling the weight of that idea, that awakening is both sudden and slow, settles softly in your mind like a quiet melody you only half remember but want to hum all day. The path curves gently, lined with wildflowers you hadn't noticed before, their colors muted in the soft afternoon light, but alive in a way that makes your chest swell with something close to awe. Sight lives everywhere, after all, not just in the sharpness of the eye, but in the very fabric of being. The sage pauses by a trickling stream, where the water moves over smooth stones with a kind of effortless grace. He kneels and lets his fingers trail in the current. You watch, wondering how someone without sight can be so attuned to the hidden details around him. Then he smiles and says, "When you listen deeply, the world reveals its form in ways sight never could." You feel the truth in that, especially when the breeze carries the faint scent of jasmine and damp earth, mixing into a subtle symphony of sensation that pulls you deeper into presence. This moment, this very breath, holds a universe of seeing without looking. The sage tells a story about a Sufi poet who once said that the heart is a lamp and the soul the oil that keeps it burning. When the oil is clear and pure, the lamp casts no shadow. But when it clouds, the shadows lengthen, and you mistake the shapes for enemies. You trace a pattern in the moss beside the stream and realize how the smallest things hold infinite detail. Tiny veins in a leaf, the ripple of water catching the sun, a bird's quiet call far above. These are the languages of awakening, whispered softly in every corner of the world. You laugh quietly at the thought that for centuries, seekers have tried to pin down awakening with words, definitions, even formulas. It's like trying to catch a cloud with your hands or teach a fish to dance. The paradox itself is the point, a sacred absurdity that invites you to let go of certainty and simply be. The sun dips lower, casting long shadows, and you realize the day has slipped by unnoticed, folded into the gentle rhythm of walking and listening. Awakening isn't a destination, the sage reminds you. It's the unfolding dance of presence, where even the silence between heartbeats sings. You look up at the sky, the stars beginning to prick the twilight like tiny lanterns. Sight lives everywhere, even here, in the vastness above, in the stillness within. You step forward, feeling the world not just around you, but inside you, alive with a gentle knowing that's both ancient and utterly new.
I hope you're having the greatest moment of your life, or maybe something even more sacred, because when it begins, something inside you quietly unfolds. An extraordinary love, so vast it holds the entire universe in its arms. Every star that ever burned, every silence that holds the space between, every breath drawn in wonder, every being ever touched by light. I love you guys so much. And I hope you give this love to everyone you can think of.